Now, today is a very special day because I don't even know if this has happened before. Yeah, we've got three very significant families from the local area who are at the center of the local cultural history, music and art. Yeah, central characters. And it's an intergenerational one, so we have mother, daughter, father, son. Yeah? We have Wilf Walker and Huey Walker, Miss Lee and her daughter Kim, Pepe Francis and Darren Frank. Yeah? We've been talking about the history of the land that we're standing on. So what I'm going to do is kind of kick off a conversation in that vein in terms of what is your connection to this land historically, intergenerationally, what was your experience of working in this area, especially on the 23 acres, because that's where we come into the story in terms of being a musician and our relationship, especially recently, with what's been going on locally. So I used to work with Huey at the Flyover, Portobello, which was closed in the last year and a half. I used to work there along with man like Ray Carles, doing stuff in the local area, put a lot of time and effort into recreating a new era of music in the local area. So I put a lot of investment into that. And where this conversation comes up is in the sense that what Huey experienced and what his father experienced on the same land is very similar. So I'm just going to pass on to Huey first, so he can kick off as to your experience, and then maybe then pass it on to Wilf, and then we'll go along the line. But it doesn't have to be linear. If anyone wants to say anything, I'll pass this other mic over as well so that you can interject, yeah? So, who is here? Just give a big Ladbroke Grove welcome to everyone who's gathered, please. Bless up. All right. Bless up. Huey.
Hi, so the Flyover, 2011, I found out that what was In on the Green, which was another community space that many people loved, I for one, as I was growing up, as the rest of the area, there may be places that I hadn't been able to go to with my friends were closing down and changing, and maybe we didn't feel as welcome. But In on the Green always felt like a place where everyone in the community was welcome. Then that closed, and I found out there was an opportunity for someone else to do something in that space. And I wanted to do something that kind of kept the spirit of In on the Green, and that it was welcoming and open to everyone, and using my experience from my father, my family, and my own experience, doing some kind of a music and cultural space. So that's what I approached the Westway Trust with. That was the plan, to open that space, and we opened it in 2011, 2012. And before I opened it, I spoke to my dad, and he'd had very negative experiences on this land, on the Westway, on 23 acres of land owned by the Westway. I also spoke to Dave and Tina, who ran the In on the Green, and they had very negative experiences. But I thought, you know, I've got that experience of what happened to those people, so let me try and do it, and I'm sure I can do it differently, and I'll have a positive experience. And for about, well, up until a year and a half ago, it was a relatively positive experience. We were running regular events, all different types of art forms, mainly music, appealing to all sections of the community. It was a successful music and arts venue, especially at a time when across the country venues are closing down everywhere, and we were developing something really special. And then similar, it was like history was repeating itself. The Westway Trust kind of pulled the rug out from under us, and the venue was closed, and left a lot of people quite upset, and quite a lot of investment had been put into it, a lot of my time, a lot of other people's time. And yeah, that's basically the story of what happened to me on these 23 acres.
Well, I got involved with the landowner here initially at the very beginning because I knew the people who wanted to paint murals on all this bare brick. And we started to organize benefits concerts in the Aqua Mall to raise money to buy paint. So that's how I got involved. This is in the sort of mid-70s. I moved on from there through Carnival to we had a riot in the Carnival in 1976, so we formed the Defense Committee. And because of my experience of organizing these benefits to paint the walls, I was asked to organize benefits concerts for the Carnival defendants. And so that's how I first got involved with promoting in the Aqua Bowl, which was the local venue on the land here. Having done a few benefits, I kind of enjoyed the experience, and I talked to the trust about maybe doing events in there on a permanent basis. So it was agreed that I would have every Friday night. Yeah, so I could do events in there every Friday night. And what I did was, I rented an office in the trust building where I did the admin for these events. So every week I would put on a reggae band and 2 punk bands in the Aqua Hall. And during the week I would be working on developing the next project. So, you know, so it was rolling. So I'll be printing posters, I'll be booking bands, I'll be putting up posters, I'll be taking ads, I'll be running the venue once a week. And this went on for 18 months until it was during the same period. So we were like doing the same kind of work as Rock Against Racism in the Aqua Bowl. And in fact, at one point, the venue was attacked by racists, and they burned the Aqua Bowl and they burned the Albany in Deptford. And while the Aqua Bowl was closed, Roger Matlin decided to literally close down my operation, and he sold the venue to Vince Powell for £1. Now, I mean, I've got a personal history which is about suffering, which is about institutions, which is about prison and things like that. And you know, if you are a local community person who is trying to work on the levels that I was trying to work, one would assume you would have the support of your local community people, but that was not forthcoming from the trust or Roger Matlin. I could say more, but let's see what else I would say right now.
My experience with this piece of land that we're sitting on here now is around 1980. That was Ebony Steel Band, we were looking for a base to go. We used to be based up at the Crypt in Paddington, and that was due to be pulled down, and we were looking for somewhere for a rehearsal space. So there was an old hut just at the back here, just a basic hut, which was more or less part of the Akron Play Center. And we approached the Akron Play Center committee, and if we could have used the whole hut as a rehearsal space. I mean, it had no lighting, no heating or nothing, but we occupied it. They gave it to us, and they set out to raise funds to build a proper panyard for us to rehearse it. And we did, because at that time, Ken Livingstone was in charge of the GLA, and Paul Boateng was working in the GLA. But it wasn't called the GLA then, but which is now the GLA. And I approached Paul, and we managed to get some money. The GLC it was, yes. And I approached Paul and a couple of other people who I knew working there, and we managed to raise £50,000 to build an extension to Akron Play Center. And together with the management committee of Akron Play Center, we agreed we would build a building attached to the play center, and we would have a rehearsal space downstairs, and they can have a gym upstairs. So that way it worked out for everybody. And we actually did all the digging and stuff ourselves. The then leader of the council, Councillor Freeman, it was then, God rest his soul, he actually gave us help with the builders to build to put up the bricks and mortar, to build the building, to make sure it was built under specification by the borough. And we built it much to the disgust of Roger Matlin, who didn't want us there in the first place, but didn't have much choice in the matter, because I don't know how many of you will remember Herbert Bukhari used to be the chairman there. And then I took over from him as chairman when he left. And he used to run the local football team there, and a lot of the young local lads grew up in this area, used Acklam Play Center. Most of the people in Ladbroke Grove grew up in Acklam Play Center. It was either Acklam or the Venture. Those were the only two playgrounds that the local community, the black community, used to attend. And Roger reluctantly had to let us carry on. In the meantime, Wilf was running the stages on the green and up at Meanwhile Gardens, and it was working well, but Roger was planning for us all along anyway. And after how many years, we were there 20 years, something like that, he decided that the building, when the lease was up, he will pull the building down. And on the dot of the lease being up, he sent in people to pull the building down. So we resisted for a little while, went to court, lost in court, because the trust in those days, and I think they still do, when they take you to court, they take you to the High Court of the Strand. And it proves very expensive. The first case cost me £6,000 just for lawyers' fees. So that history there. So we couldn't, in the end, we couldn't stop the building because the council said that they gave the land to the trust. The trust is responsible for the land. So, and that's where we kind of had to watch the building pull down. And I'm sitting here today and I'm seeing up to now, from 2000, 2002 to now, we've been promised, we would have been back here with the new development and all that, like 2006 to 2008. And it's now 2016 and I don't see no new development and I see nothing but talk. And while I'm saying that, I also want to tell you, there was a Bay 20 down on St. Mark's Road, was also a Carnival Development Project. I was the administrator working there, and Roger bulldozed that down as well. So, you know, the trust has a lot of compensation to do for this area.
Could I ask you one question? When exactly did this land move from the council to the trust?
Yeah, I'd say the North Kensington Amenities Trust was actually formed in.
No, because when I was working here, the trust paid for me to work here. This land was not the trust land, it was the council's land.
Give it to the trust to develop.
To administer.
So wait, it's not the trust land, it's still
Legally, it belongs to Transport for London. They are the owners of the land. They gave it to Kensington Chelsea Borough Council to administer and to develop for communities. Kensington Chelsea Borough Council then passed it on to the trust because the trust said they can raise commercial money to develop the land.
My experience of the trust has been quite simple. All the activities that I ever attended on the 23 acres were always provided by subcommittees that benefited the whole community. So it wasn't just like the seniors, or it wasn't just the young people, they were sort of universal. So I went to supplementary school in Acklam Hall. I also went to the playground here. At that time, Pepe had next door with the steel pan. Children from our end would go straight in and they'd go and learn. Most of them were here yesterday, actually. Ashley was here yesterday and a few others, yeah? So we've always been together all the time, all different colors, all different ages. And the trust systematically stopped all of that, because that was all being done or provided by people on the ground. People who had an idea to use the space for whatever, opened the doors and other people came. Other people enjoyed it. I'm sure Pepe can tell you how many different types of people came to learn pan, how many different ages came to learn pan. My own mom could tell you how many children she dressed, yeah? What backgrounds they came from, all over the borough, yeah? And the same with Will, he can tell you how many different entertainers who were here, lived here, decided to take up a drum or a guitar and start a band, and he encouraged them, facilitated them, put them on stages where they were seen at the carnival. 2-3 million people saw them every year. It was crazy. So all of that ended because Roger Maitland had a fiefdom. He literally divided up the space, called the shots, and whenever he got tired of you or had another idea that he wanted to do something with, it was only your space that he was interested in. There's 23 acres, and the only space he could pull down was this one.
Yeah, also Bay 20, but all of the spaces that we did have to use as black community was taken from us one by one. Carnival Industrial Project, which I grew up when I was a little kid. My sister got her first youth training scheme in there when she was 17, 18. Learning how to manufacture pans, how to make the stands, how to build costumes, how to weld the floats, learning welding, fabrication, all these things was going on in this space that now has a set of blue stones. When they closed it, they said they was going to build a car park. Up to now, how many years later, nothing, just blue stones. That was an enterprise. That was for us to create our own industries, create our own wealth. It was a start for us to be able to create our own things out of our own culture. That was taken. Then we get, as a steel man, we get a home with a youth centre, and it's working together because the youth are coming straight into the band, and that's keeping a lot of the youths off the street. They're learning an instrument. They're, getting work, educated, work out of it. It was a good thing. That's what we've got. Acklam Hall. We used to go there. There used to be a lot of community events. It was a hall we could afford to use at the time. All of that, all gone from under. And as the black community, there's no other buildings or premises or centres that we have under this 23 acres at the moment. Nothing. So all that was taken.
And we were all sitting here speaking of the past. What I would dearly like to see is that at this time, we decide now, old or young, to see if we can't get just a bit of it to open an Afro-Caribbean Center. That is my dream, and I hope to God I live to see it. Let us forget the past. Roger is dead. Let us find a way that we can come together and do something like that. We do not want to name it Carnival, because I think this community thinks that all we know is Carnival. Yes, it's our art form, but we educate our children for better and higher things. It can't be higher than Carnival because it's an art form that brings the community together. But we would like to see doctors and lawyers stand and sit in the same spot with us. We are growing our children now for betterment. Let us fight now to gain this spot. I don't care who land it is, because the Westway cannot think they can come in here and take things. Let us show them that this is where we stand and this is where we're going to stay.